She had the number in her head the way you carry a weight you have never put down. 500,000. That was her super balance. She had checked it on her phone, sitting on the bench at the end of the Redcliffe Pier. The water flat and silver, the morning joggers passing behind her. 500,000 sounded like a lot of money when she was 30.
Look at how well the bottle brush is doing this year.
With 3 years until the age pension,
it really brightens up
and
the
every
nature
headline
strip,
telling her
doesn't
she
it?
needed $2 million to retire, it did not feel like enough. She locked the phone, put it in her bag, and sat there for a while, watching the pelicans, wondering whether she had spent her whole life working only to come up short. If that feeling sits close to something you recognise, stay with me, because today I want to give you the honest answer. Can you retire with $500,000 in super? And the answer is more encouraging than most people expect, but it comes with conditions that are worth understanding clearly. Let me start with why the headlines are misleading. When newspapers say you need $2 million or $2.5 million to retire, they are using the 4% rule. Withdraw 4% a year and your money should last 30 years. 4% of $2.5 million is $100,000 a year. That sounds right. But the calculation assumes you're funding everything from super, no age pension, no concessions, nothing from the government. For the majority of Australians, that assumption is simply wrong. The age pension exists. And at $500,000 in super, it is not just a safety net. It is the foundation of your retirement income. Let me show you the number, because this is where the picture changes. A single person, 67, who owns their home and has $500,000 in total countable assets, super, savings, investments, everything outside the house. Under the assets test, the full pension threshold for a single homeowner is about $333,000. She is over by $167,000. At the taper rate of $3 per fortnight for every $1,000 over, her pension reduces by about $501 per fortnight. The maximum single pension is $1,200.90, so she receives roughly $700 per fortnight. That is about $18,200 a year in pension. On top of that, she is drawing down her super. The minimum drawdown rate between 65 and 74 is 5%. 5% of 500,000 is 25,000 a year. Total retirement
The key difference
income,
between these
roughly
scenarios is clear.
$43,000
Maintaining
a year.
$4,500
Plus,
here
the pensioner
requires
concession
working until
card,
6 to
which gives
6
her cheaper
versus the
prescriptions,
alternative.
reduced council rates, state energy concessions, and discounted public transport. The card alone can be worth $2,000 to $3,000 a year in real savings, so her effective income is closer to $45,000 or $46,000. Now, the ASFA retirement standard, which is the industry benchmark, says a comfortable retirement for a single person requires about $51,600 a year. A modest retirement sits at about $32,900. At $43,000 to $46,000, she is above modest and approaching comfortable. It is not luxury, but it is livable, and it is significantly better than the headlines suggest. Now, here is the part that genuinely surprises people, and it is the most important number in this entire video. A couple, both 67. They own their home, combined super and savings of $500,000. Under the assets test, the full pension threshold for a homeowner couple is about $499,000. They are over by roughly $1,000. At the taper rate, their pension reduces by $3 per fortnight. $3. Their combined pension is essentially the full rate, about $1,807 per fortnight. That is roughly $47,000 a year, plus 5% drawdown on $500,000 in super, $25,000 a year. Total retirement income for the couple, approximately $72,000 a year, plus the pensioner concession card for both of them. The ASFA comfortable standard for a couple is about $72,600. They are almost exactly at their comfortable benchmark on $500,000 in super, not $2 million, not $1.5 million, $500,000. That is the number the newspapers never print. Now, I want to be honest about the conditions because there are important ones. First, this assumes they own their home outright. The family home is excluded from the assets test. If they are renting, the picture changes. They receive higher pension thresholds as non-homeowners, but the rent itself, which in most Australian cities is now $300 to $500 a week or more, takes an enormous bite out of their income. Renting in retirement is one of the hardest financial positions in the country, and $500,000 in super does not stretch nearly as far without a home underneath it. Second, The super balance goes down each year. That is the design of the system. At 5% drawdown, the $500,000 becomes $475 after year one, then $450, and so on. But here is the mechanism most people miss. As the super balance falls, the assessed assets fall, and the pension
Here is
increases.
your coffee.
The taper works in reverse
Thanks a lot.
on the way down. So
We
the
should
pension
review the
gradually
draft before
replaces
the
the
meeting.
super income. The shift is slow, but it is built into the system. That interaction between your super and your pension is something we have covered in detail. And when you see the numbers modelled year by year, the picture is genuinely reassuring. Third, the cost of living is rising. $43,000 for a single person or $72,000 for a couple sounds manageable today, but electricity bills are climbing every quarter. Insurance premiums went up again this year. Grocery prices at Woolworths and Coles are noticeably higher than they were 2 years ago. The pension is indexed, it adjusts with inflation, but has it kept pace with what retirees actually experience at the checkout? There is a growing gap between the official CPI and the lived reality of retirement expenses. That gap is something we have unpacked step by step, because the numbers tell a story that matters. Now, here is where most explanations stop. But there is a practical layer that is worth understanding, because it can shift your outcome by thousands of dollars a year. If you're still a few years from retirement, say 58 or 62, and your super is sitting at $400,000, the question is not just, is that enough? The question is, what can I do in the next few years to close the gap? The concessional contributions cap is now $32,500 a year. If your employer is contributing 12% of a $70,000 salary, that is $8,400, you have room to salary sacrifice up to about $24,000 more. Over 5 years, that is meaningful money. It will not turn $400,000 into $2 million, but it might turn it into $550,000 or $600,000. And at that level, the pension interaction changes, the income changes, and the picture looks very different. And if you're unsure about the tax implications of salary sacrifice at your age, we have walked through exactly what happens to your super tax at 60. And the numbers surprise most people because the discount is larger than they expect. If you want to check where you stand, Services Australia has a pension estimator on their website, servicesaustralia.gov.au, and your super fund can show you your projected balance at retirement. And if you're unsure about how to structure your approach, talk to a qualified, independent financial advisor, someone who charges a fee for advice, not a commission on a product. So what we have covered today is this: $500,000 in super is not a failure. For a couple who own their home, it puts you at or near the ASV comfortable standard when combined with the full age pension. For a single person, it puts you well above the modest standard and within reach of comfortable. The pension is not a consolation prize. At $500,000 in super, it is nearly half your retirement income. But there is something else worth exploring, something that sits underneath everything we have talked about today. Those years between 60 and 67, before the pension starts, are the most expensive years of early retirement. You are drawing from super with no government support. How you navigate that gap changes everything about the next 20 years. That gap is something we will cover in full, because it deserves its own explanation, and understanding it early can save you genuine money. If this helped put a number in perspective that has been sitting uncomfortably in the back of your mind, share it with someone you know who has been quietly worrying that their super is not enough. Sometimes all it takes is someone showing you the full picture, not just the super, but the pension beside it. And I'm curious, does $500,000 feel closer to your situation than $2 million? What is the number sitting in your super right now? And has today changed how you feel about it? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and your questions genuinely shape what I cover next. Thumbnail moment. A phone screen showing a super balance of $500,000, resting on a wooden bench beside the water, morning light across the screen, a hand reaching to pick it up, as if about to check whether it is enough.